Hey, Luke here with catsandcarp.com, and we're doing some summertime catfishing. And I'm going to show you how to catch catfish in the summertime.
A couple techniques really make summertime catfishing different than any other time of year. First, the best time to catch catfish in the summer is between an hour before sunset up until a couple hours after sunrise. This is perfect for catching a few catfish after a long day at work. The second thing that's unique about summer is that I tend to soak my bait more than I do in the wintertime. In the winter I hop around from spot to spot, and in the summer I tend to find a good spot and sit there a lot more than I normally would. This is because the catfish are a lot more active in the summertime, so you can sit and wait for them to come to you as opposed to going out and finding them. For those of you who watch a lot of my videos, you might have already noticed that Nathan is here with me instead of my older son Tommy. Well, Tommy got himself grounded, so Nathan's going catfishing with me, but I'm not quite sure how he's enjoying it.
Nathan, I love you. You having fun?
No. Another thing that's unique about the summer is my bait selection. In the heat of summer, shad die rapidly in live wells. So I'll only use shad if I'm doing a quick trip like this one, because they're very quick and easy to catch. If I'm going to be on the bank for a while, I like bluegill, suckers, or other fish. But occasionally you catch all sorts of random things in your net, like this common carp here. Not a bad little carp, but I want live bait and this is just too big for what I need. Locating shad is also different in the summer. I tend to look for schools on the surface rather than using my fish finder. In the summer, shad tend to be shallower and they tend to be more spread out instead of being in tightly packed schools. So you can cast pretty much anywhere and catch one or two at a time, but it's hard to get a bunch all at once. If you don't have a boat, it's really easy to catch shad with a cast net from a dock or from a boat ramp. So summer can be a great time to stock up and freeze a bunch of shad for wintertime. If you're fishing with live bait, picking live bait that's the right size, that's bite size for a catfish, is really important. You want your bait fish to slide easily into a catfish's mouth without too much fuss. So I'm pretty picky about the size of fish I choose. In this net, I caught a really big shad. So he's a pretty one. It's unusual to find him this big in this area, but I chucked him back because he's just a little bit too big for what I wanted. And additionally, I like to throw back the big shad because they're the breeders, and I use a lot of shad, and I want to keep being able to use a lot of shad. If you want to know where to catch catfish in the summertime, you have to understand how the bait fish change what they're doing with the time of day. Here you can see in the daylight, when it's still hot, the shad are mostly on the bottom. Bluegill and other bait fish will also be hunkered down in structure. As the sun begins to set, phytoplankton and insects come up to the surface of the water, and the bluegill and shad come out to feed. The catfish then come out to feed on them. So if you understand this, it can help you pick spots. So let's take a look at what the bottom of this reservoir looks like. You have a steep bank with a lot of fallen trees that are up along the bank, and there's bluegill and little fish hiding in the trees. The catfish in the daytime hunker down in this deep water next to all this structure. They bury themselves in there. They're feeding on the bluegill that are in the structure. They're taking it easy, but as the moon comes out, as the sun sets, those bluegill move out into the shallow water to feed on phytoplankton and insects. The shad move out into the shallow water to feed on the phytoplankton, and the catfish move out into the shallow water to feed on them. So the ideal spot is shallow water next to deeper water full of structure where the catfish hide during the day. If you're in a small lake, the same principle applies, but a little bit differently. So in this lake you have some brush and overhanging branches, you have a sunken tree, and you've got a deep spot in the middle. The catfish hang out in the deep spot, they hang out underneath the tree branches, they hang down in the sunken logs in the daytime. But then when the moon comes out, they leave these hiding holes and they come out into the shallow water to feed on the bait fish. So what you can do is, if you know this, you can set up in choke points. So here you got another example. You got deep water, you've got a narrow neck of water, and then you've got like a lagoon, right? So if you set up at the narrow neck, you can intercept the catfish as they go into the lagoon to feed. So understanding how the catfish move with the changes of the sun lets you set up a good ambush point. Here I'm anchoring up on a shallow right on the edge of a deep area full of structure, and I accidentally bonked little Nathan on the head. Luckily he was fine. It didn't get him too bad, didn't leave any marks. But he started to actually have some fun. I think he started to actually enjoy himself. The rods I'm using are the medium heavy action Whisker Seeker 7-foot rods with the Akuma Trios 55S. And the rig I'm using is basically an inline lead, a bead, a swivel, about 18 inches of mono, and a big circle hook. I can either use the inline lead or I'll use this little slider with a clasp. As far as hooks go, I use big 8/0 or 10/0 circle hooks for these type of catfish, but if you have smaller fish, you can go smaller. I hook the bait live behind the dorsal fin and make sure to take the scales off the hook point so it doesn't interfere with your hook set. And occasionally in the summertime, you have a lot of shad die in the live well. They're really hard to keep alive. And as they pop off, take them out of the live well, and then I'll cut them in half and use them as a fresh live bait. I like to hook the head section right above the gill plate through the back, and on the tail section I cut off the fin, and then I'll hook it through the back as well. If I've got a bigger chunk, I'll cut out the gut pouch. If I've got a smaller chunk, I'll leave it in. We have no limit to how many rods you can fish with in Virginia, but if you have a limit in your state, just remember, take a kid fishing.
Okay, so the ants have built a nest in my bait knife. That tells you something about needing to clean your bait knife more often. Okay. Everything feels like it's twitching. Watch out, Nathan. Yeah, watch out, Nathan. Okay, watch out. Oh, there's a nice one. Whew. Alrighty.
Alrighty, what a beauty, huh, Nate? Hey, Nate. Roar! Oh, you don't like that? Alright.
When you're using circle hooks and you've got rods and rod holders, this is how you know when the fish is on the hook. You wait until the rod tip goes down and stays down or stays moving for 2 to 3 full seconds. So if it just goes bounce and leave it alone. Down and stays down for 2 to 3 seconds, run over and you reel it until the rod tip bends way down. Then you pull the rod out of the rod holder. And you don't have to set the hook because you're using circle hooks. The circle hooks set themselves.
Well, it was a Tuesday night. I only got a few hours to go fishing before it was time for Nathan's bedtime. But hopefully you learned a few tips, and you learned, if nothing else, that you can go out fishing for just a couple hours before sunset and have some killer fishing. It was even a full moon, which traditionally isn't the best time to go fishing. They say a no moon night is the best. But it's great. You can catch some great fish doing this, and get out there and try it. And if you like these videos, check out some of our other videos, including how to catch catfish in the daytime and some great bank fishing tips and tricks. If you like what you see, don't forget to click subscribe. We put out new videos every week. Thanks for watching.